Welcome everyone, a guy trying here, and today we're going to take a look at building a deck for Fen Crowbar in Altered TCG. So let's get into it. Fen Crowbar are a Lyra hero whose ability reads, during morning, draw only one card. Then, put the top card of your deck in your mana zone instead of a card from your hand. At noon, resupply. Ignore my abilities during the first day. As with all Lyra heroes, Fen and Crowbar have an aspect of randomness in their design. While you don't get to choose what you put into mana each morning, you do get a free resupply each turn. This allows us to have more value than our opponents throughout the game and see more of our deck. Because of this, we're going to try to maximize our value from reserve. Let's start with our deck core. These are the cards I think should be included in every iteration of the deck and should be the baseline for any list. Once we have the core constructed, we'll move on to some options to fill out the remaining slots that can be changed to fit your playstyle or whatever uniques you may own. We'll start with the card that perfectly exemplifies the type of cards we want in our deck. Ouroboros Inkcaster is a cheap card with at-rate stats, but more importantly, she has tons of utility. When she goes into our reserve from an expedition, she bounces her card from our reserve back to our hand to give us more value. And from reserve can be a cheap unit or reduce the next card we play through her support. Aloe Vera is a fair stated card that can give us value over multiple turns. Their self-anchor allows us to keep board presence, while their resupply increases our card advantage. There are also support abilities to give Aloe Vera anchor again to keep this value going. Tinkerbell is our sabotage for the deck. While Tanuki wouldn't take up a rare slot, we can't control whether it actually gets into our hand. Tinkerbell will more consistently let us sabotage, and the reduced hand cost will help if we draw it. Moving on to our comments, we have Anansi. Anansi takes advantage of our overflowing reserve and can easily contest an expedition by himself sometimes. His 3 hand cost also makes him a good target for any anchor abilities we may put in the deck. Martengale is a 1-drop with cost reduction support. It's a simple card overall, but feels great in the deck to either pass priority or smooth out cost curves. This is an unsung hero for the deck. Hathor has spike stats for her 2 hand cost, allowing her to help combat lanes, and we can normally ignore her increased reserve cost. We're much happier when we get to use her support to bounce a card back from our reserve to our hand and recur value. Cloth Cocoon is still some of the best removal in the game, and it doesn't take up rare slots in this deck, so it's probably the easiest to include in this deck. We can also use it with our following spells if needed. Cappella Training is once again here to reduce our opponent's value throughout the game. While it's best when played early, it is a 1-cost card that passes priority to help us figure out what to play in the late game. Twinkle Twinkle feels like the most interesting card in the deck for me. It can help you close out a game through sleeping multiple targets at crucial moments, or we can use its support to reduce other cards we want to play. It just feels so good in so many different scenarios. I'm going to put 2 in the core because it can feel clunky when you draw too many, but please feel free to add the 3rd. And that's our core. You should be able to scan the QR code on the screen to take you to my copy of the deck core on Altered.gg. That way you can duplicate and already have a base when you start to finish the deck. As we move on to our options, I'm going to once again group the cards into packages that can indicate their purpose in the deck. Our support package has good generic support abilities that can play well when put into our reserve. Paper Herald and Studious Disciple can both be used as cheap 1-costs as well, whereas Alice will give more stats if you actually decide to play her. Our reserve filter package allows us to get rid of cards in our reserve to dig deeper into our deck. Lyra Skald breaks my rule of having from hand only abilities, but it has a cost reduction support that saves it, and on top of filtering, Amahle is a big body that can win lanes. Our anchor package adds support cards that can give our characters with hand cost 3 or less anchored. While Cernunnos doesn't give anchored, he's in the package because he's one of the best targets for anchored with his above rate stats. Kodama is better than the Hathor because they are also able to be played cheap from reserve, but does take up rare slots and can feel clunky from hand. Our spells package features a couple extra good cheap spells to help you throughout the game, but they feel awful from reserve because of their increased costs. You'll want to bounce them back with either Flamel or Inkcaster. You can also use cards from the reserve filter package to cycle them out of your reserve. The one-off spells package includes spells that can be very helpful at crucial moments in the game, but should really be limited to 1 copy in the deck because they don't function as well outside of those moments. And finally, we have our party package. Festival is a fun alternate win condition that you can splash into this deck if you want, but normally I'd recommend just fully committing to the festival strategy if you're going to put it in. Both festivals give value when played, but the 4 cost makes it rough to keep tempo. However, Festival is really the only landmark that has any function in the deck, so if you need landmarks for uniques, feel free to use them. Which brings us to uniques. This deck can be built with a lot of different things in mind, so uniques can be rather fluid. I would instead say that we should avoid uniques that have from hand abilities because we can't rely on them. We're really looking for good passives, supports, abilities that can activate from anywhere, or at least abilities that can activate from reserve. For my uniques, I chose these 3. The Hathor allows me to anchor other characters when it's on the field, and importantly has a hand cost of 3 so that I can anchor him with supports. My Tanuki has 2 triggers at dusk, an RNG sabotage, and a full team fleeting wipe. This allows me to reduce my opponent's value in multiple ways, and he has a 3 hand cost so he can be anchored as well. Finally, I didn't feel like I had another standout option for my deck, so I added this Croupier, which has All-In as an ability to help me pressure expeditions. With that all done, this is my finished deck list. The QR code should take you to the deck on Altered.gg, but there's also a link in the description. Fen and Crowbar give such value over the course of the game that's no wonder they are seeing good results so far in the early meta. This hero can be a double-edged sword when learning the game though. While it does reduce some decision making since you don't have to figure out what to put into mana each day, it also keeps you from training that muscle. Still, they are a very fun hero that can help you learn how to sort through multiple different play patterns in a single turn. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you found this helpful in some way. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, but if you made it this far, just know I'm happy you stayed with me this long. I have one more faction that I haven't done a deck guide on, so I will be making one for an Izmir hero before I do any others. I've been trying to keep these videos pretty succinct and informative, so let me know if you appreciate this format, or if you'd like longer, more in-depth videos. I've also recorded some games with decks I've been using so that I can go through my thought process while playing the game, so let me know if you think those would be helpful. I've also been thinking about doing some live stream BGA, so let me know if you think that would be better than replay videos. And if you have any thoughts or ideas on things you'd like to see in the future, feel free to let me know. That's all for now, but I hope we see each other again.